Imagine stepping into a global financial universe where banks, stockbrokers, and credit checks simply do not exist.
Like they're just gone.
Right, completely gone. There are no opening hours, no branch managers, and zero customer service lines.
None.
Instead, you enter this system where you can borrow millions of dollars in a millisecond with absolutely zero collateral. The only catch is that you have to follow the unbending, mathematically pure laws of computer code.
Which sounds like sci-fi, but it's very real.
It is. That is decentralized finance, or DeFi, but behind that utopian promise of, code is law, there's a graveyard of billion-dollar hacks, algorithmic bank runs, and massive regulatory battles.
A lot of collateral damage.
Exactly. So
Right.
today, we are opening up a massive stack of sources to really demystify how this alternate financial architecture actually works. We want to explore the wild highs, the devastating hacks, and figure out if it is the future of money or just a digital Wild West.
It's a bit of both, honestly.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Before we look at the billions of dollars made and lost, we have to understand the basic plumbing. Like, how do you actually build a lending and borrowing system without a bank?
Well, you replace the bank with code. Specifically, you use something called a smart contract running on a public, permissionless blockchain.
And Ethereum was the network that really proved this concept back in 2017, right?
Exactly, yeah. Ethereum laid the groundwork.
I think the term smart contract sounds incredibly intimidating to a lot of people. What is it actually doing?
Think of it like a digital vending machine.
Okay, a vending machine.
Yeah. You walk up to a vending machine, insert a dollar, and press a button. The machine doesn't verify your identity.
Right.
It doesn't check your credit score or ask what you plan to do with the soda. It just executes a hard-coded rule. If the dollar is deposited and the button is pressed, dispense the drink.
Ah, I see.
A smart contract takes that exact same automated, self-executing logic and applies it to complex financial services.
And because it lives on a public blockchain, anyone globally can interact with that vending machine.
Anyone with an internet connection.
So you are completely bypassing traditional background checks. There are no anti-money laundering verifications and no know your customer protocols, no KYC.
Which is the core ethos of the whole movement. It is entirely permissionless.
But the sources make a fascinating point about how this software is built. They use the term money Legos.
I love that analogy.
Well, me too. So instead of building a monolithic piece of software, developers are just stacking these different layers together. Like there's a settlement layer, an asset layer, a protocol layer, an application layer, and an aggregator layer.
What's fascinating here is the concept of composability.
Composability.
Yeah. Because these smart contracts are open source, they function as neutral public infrastructure, meaning anyone can build on top of them.
So let's actually build one of these out. Let's say the base layer, like the big green Lego plate on the bottom, is the Ethereum blockchain itself. That handles the settlement.
Right, the foundation.
Then I want to create a token. So I snap an asset Lego onto the board.
And someone else can come along and snap a lending protocol Lego directly on top of your asset Lego.
Okay.
And then another developer could snap a trading interface, the application layer on top of that, and then an aggregator Lego on top to find the best prices.
It is entirely modular. I mean, in traditional finance, if you want two different banking systems to communicate, you are looking at years of red tape.
Oh, lawyers, intermediaries taking a cut.
Yeah, proprietary software clashes. But in DeFi, interoperability is the default state.
It has to be. The code is out in the open. You don't have to ask for permission to plug your new financial product into an existing pool of money. You just write the script and deploy it.
But of course, once developers proved these money Legos worked, human nature took over.
As it always does.
Right. People didn't just want neutral infrastructure. They wanted to generate profit. And that is when this space evolves from a technical experiment into an absolute frenzy.
Oh, a total gold rush. To understand the sheer scale of the 2020 boom, we really need to look at what set the stage.
Right. Take us back a bit.
Back in 2017, a platform called MakerDAO launched. They solved a massive problem for this ecosystem by introducing a stablecoin pegged to the US dollar.
This is called DAI, right? Though I think the sources mention it went through a major rebrand to USDS in 2024 via the Sky rebrand.
Yes, exactly. DAI, now USDS.
Because if you are trying to take out a loan, you don't want to use a volatile asset like Bitcoin where the value could drop 40% in a week. You need stability.
Exactly. And MakerDAO proved you could maintain a stable $1 asset value completely decentralized. They just used smart contracts to manage collateral and liquidations.
Wow.
It worked so well that it gave the ecosystem a reliable foundation. But the real gasoline on the fire that came in June 2020...
That's your compound finance.
Yes. Compound changed the game entirely.
Yeah.
They didn't just offer interest to people who lent their cryptocurrency. They started handing out their own native token called Comp as a reward simply for using the platform.
It altered the incentive structure of the entire industry.
Completely.
If I translate this to the real world, it's like walking into a Chase bank, depositing $100 into a savings account, and the teller hands you 10 shares of Chase stock just to say thank you.
That is a very helpful way to picture it, but with a crucial difference.
Which is?
Traditional banks are heavily regulated, and those shares are tied to actual corporate earnings. In DeFi, these new tokens were immediately tradable on the open market, and their value was driven purely by speculation.
Which sparked what the sources call yield farming, or liquidity mining.
Yeah, yield farming was madness.
Users realized they could rapidly shift massive amounts of capital between different platforms to maximize their total return. They were hunting for the base interest, the trading fees, and these bonus tokens, all at the exact same time.
And because the code is open source, other developers instantly copy-pasted Compound's model. Suddenly, there were hundreds of platforms offering their own governance tokens, promising astronomical returns to attract capital.
So what does this all mean for the underlying value of the system? Because I have to push back on this entire era.
Go for it.
When you read the sources, it describes a scenario where people are locking up billions of dollars in unproven code just to earn a token that only has value because other people are doing the exact same thing.
It was highly reflexive.
Yeah. I mean, even Michael Novogratz, a massive crypto investor, called some of these setups quote-unquote Ponzi-like.
And the broader context of the market proved that critique was entirely warranted. The economics driving yield farming were completely circular.
Right.
The advertised yields were astronomically high, sometimes hundreds of %, because the reward tokens were skyrocketing in price. And the reward tokens were skyrocketing because the high yields were driving extreme hype and demand.
A textbook speculative feedback loop.
Exactly. It drove the total value locked the TVL across DeFi to a peak of $180 billion by November 2021.
$180 billion. That is staggering.
It is. But a feedback loop works in both directions.
The crash.
Right. When the broader crypto market crashed in 2022, largely triggered by the implosion of the Terra LNA ecosystem and the collapse of FTX, the leverage in the system unwound violently.
And people panicked.
Yields vanished, token prices collapsed, and by 2023, the total collateral locked in these platforms had shrunk to under $40 billion.
Wow. From 180 to under 40.
It washed away a lot of the speculative noise and showed us exactly which money Legos were actually built on solid ground.
But there is a practical mechanical question here. If you are yield farming and moving millions of dollars between these protocols, you still have to trade one token for another.
You do.
And you can't rely on a traditional centralized exchange like a CEX, because that requires giving custody of your funds to a company, which defeats the whole purpose of being decentralized.
Exactly. So the ecosystem had to invent decentralized exchanges, or DX. And to do that, they had to completely reinvent how trading actually works.
Because traditional finance relies on order books, right?
Yes. On the New York Stock Exchange, you have buyers bidding a specific price and sellers asking a specific price. A centralized market maker sits in the middle and matches them up.
But on a blockchain, maintaining a constantly updating order book is way too slow and way too expensive.
So platforms like Uniswap bypassed the order book entirely. They created automated market makers, or AMMs. Instead of trading against another human being, you are trading against a smart contract.
Like a pool of funds.
Right, a liquidity pool that is funded by other users. And those users providing the tokens earn a cut of the trading fees.
So there's no central entity matching orders at all?
None. An algorithm just dynamically adjusts the price based on the changing supply and demand inside that specific pool.
This decentralized trading architecture paved the way for what I think is the most mind-blowing innovation in all of our sources.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Flash loans. Max Wolf pioneered this at Marble Protocol in 2018, and Aave really popularized it. It is an uncollateralized loan of an arbitrary amount.
It's incredible.
Meaning, you can borrow millions of dollars without putting up a single cent of your own money to back it up.
Which breaks every fundamental rule of traditional risk assessment.
It totally does.
Yeah.
Let's try to map this onto a real-world scenario to see how absurd it sounds.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine I walk into a bank and borrow $1 million to buy a house. I instantly flip that house to a new buyer for $1.2 million. I pay the bank back their original million, plus a tiny fee, and I pocket the profit.
But in the world of DeFi, you have a rigid constraint. You have to do the borrowing, the purchasing, the flipping, and the repaying within a single blockchain block.
In the exact same millisecond.
Precisely. Because it is all coded into a single transaction.
But wait, what if I can't find a buyer for the house? What if the flip fails?
Then the smart contract triggers a failsafe. It simply rejects the entire operation. Time essentially rewinds, the state of the blockchain resets, and from the network's perspective, the loan never even happened.
That is wild. Time rewinds. So the lender literally cannot lose their money because the loan only exists if it's guaranteed to be paid back in the same moment.
Exactly.
But how is someone practically using this?
The original intent was benign. It was designed for arbitrage.
Right.
If a token is trading for $1 on Uniswap, but $1.05 on another exchange, a user could flash loan a massive amount of capital, buy the cheap tokens, sell them on the expensive exchange, and close the price gap instantly. It keeps the decentralized markets highly efficient.
But the sources highlight that this tool is frequently weaponized.
Unfortunately, yes. Because anyone can borrow an unlimited amount of money for a millisecond, malicious actors use flash loans to launch devastating attacks.
They just manipulate the market.
Yeah. They borrow massive sums, intentionally dump those tokens onto an automated exchange to artificially crash the price.
Oh, wow.
Exploit the algorithms, drain the liquidity pool, and then pay back the flash loan with their stolen profits.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Even if you aren't getting hit by a highly sophisticated flash loan attack, just being a regular participant in these liquidity pools carries huge invisible risks.
It really does.
The sources talk extensively about impermanent loss.
This is a risk entirely unique to automated market makers. Most of these pools rely on a very simple mathematical rule called the constant product formula. It is just X times Y equals K.
Okay, wait, let's break that math down so it actually makes sense. I need some round numbers here.
Sure. Imagine you deposit 10 Ethereum and 10,000 US dollars into a liquidity pool.
Okay, 10 Ethereum, $10,000.
The smart contract multiplies those two quantities. 10 times 10,000 equals 100,000.
Right.
That number 100,000 is your constant. That's K. No matter what trades happen in that pool, the formula must stay balanced to equal 100,000.
Okay, so what happens if the price of Ethereum suddenly spikes on the outside market, like on a centralized exchange?
That is where the trouble starts. If Ethereum becomes much more valuable elsewhere, arbitrage bots will flood into your pool because your automated algorithm is still offering the old, cheaper price.
Oh, I see.
To buy that cheap Ethereum, the bots have to put dollars into the pool.
And as the pool loses Ethereum and gains dollars, the algorithm has to constantly recalculate the price to maintain that mathematical constant of 100,000.
Exactly. The algorithm is blindly rebalancing. So by the time the trading stops, the pool is left with significantly less of the highly valuable Ethereum and a lot more of the less valuable dollars.
Which means, if I decide to withdraw my funds at that moment, I am walking away with less total wealth than if I had just kept my original 10 Ethereum sitting safely in my own private wallet.
You did. You essentially subsidized someone else's arbitrage profit.
That's rough. And that isn't the only structural hazard, right? Because blockchains are inherently transparent, your transactions sit in a public waiting area before they are processed by the network.
Yes, the mempool.
Right, which opens the door to front-running.
Yeah, front-running is a huge issue.
It feels like legalized theft.
Mm-hmm.
If I submit a trade that is going to be highly profitable, an automated miner bot can see my pending transaction, copy my exact trade, and then sneak their own transaction ahead of mine.
They step right in front of you.
They take the favorable price and leave me with what the sources call slippage, a worse exchange rate than I anticipated.
It is a persistent, invisible tax on the ecosystem. Market price impact and front-running are constant threats.
But beyond the invisible taxes and the complex math, there is a much darker reality to a system with no central authority.
The ultimate paradox.
Right. If there is no bank manager and no customer service line, there's absolutely no safety net. If you lose your password, your money's gone into the ether forever.
Gone.
And if a smart contract gets hacked, the transactions are completely irreversible.
The scale of the crime is hard to comprehend. In 2021, the sources indicate that half of all cryptocurrency crime globally was tied directly to DeFi. Half. And the vulnerabilities haven't disappeared. By 2025, incidents involving decentralized exchanges accounted for 20 major reports and $535 million in aggregate losses.
That is a staggering amount of money. And a lot of that isn't even external hackers breaking in. It is internal betrayals, like the rug pull.
Right. A rug pull is basically the decentralized equivalent of a pump and dump scheme.
Because the code is open source.
Exactly. Scammers can simply copy-paste the architecture of a legitimate platform, tweak a few lines of code to leave a hidden backdoor, and launch it under a new name.
They hype up the yields?
Yep. They attract millions of dollars from unsuspecting yield farmers and then execute a command that drains the entire liquidity pool. They just vanish.
And furthermore, because anyone can use these protocols without an identity check, the sources point out that DeFi has become a perfect haven for illicit actors.
Terrorist organizations, money launderers.
People looking to obscure their financial footprints, which naturally leads to the most critical tension in this entire deep dive.
The regulation question.
Right. You have this staggering innovation and billions of dollars in value, but it is accompanied by rampant crime and unerasable mistakes. If things are this dangerous, why doesn't someone just step in and stop it?
Because in a truly decentralized system, no one has the power to do so.
Right.
A purely static smart contract, once deployed to the blockchain, cannot be altered or shut down by anyone, not even its creator. It is an unstoppable machine.
But the sources reveal a dirty little secret about the space.
They do.
Most of these platforms aren't actually purely decentralized. They use upgradable contracts that are controlled by governance tokens.
In theory, governance tokens allow the community of users to vote on changes to the protocol, keeping it democratic. But in reality, those tokens are often highly concentrated.
They are hoarded by the original founding team, or the venture capitalists who funded the project, which means a very small, centralized group of people actually holds the keys to upgrade the code.
And this concentration of power leads to one of the most fascinating philosophical clashes in our sources. It's highlighted perfectly by the 2018 Bancor hack.
This is a massive aha moment for understanding the entire ecosystem.
Totally.
Hackers found a vulnerability and managed to steal $23.5 million from the Bancor decentralized exchange.
A huge hit.
But before the hackers could drain everything, the Bancor development team stepped in, used their administrative keys, and froze the remaining funds to stop the bleeding.
They actively intervened to save their customers' money.
Which sounds like a good thing. But Litecoin creator Charlie Lee pointed out the ultimate paradox here. He argued that if an exchange has the administrative power to freeze customer funds, it isn't actually decentralized at all.
Right.
It is just a traditional centralized company wearing a blockchain disguise.
It forces you to confront a profound contradiction. If your platform is truly decentralized, you are powerless to stop a hack or reverse a stolen transaction. But if you have the power to stop a hack, you are a centralized entity.
And if you are a centralized entity,
you immediately become a target for global regulators.
And regulators have aggressively entered the chat. The Securities and Exchange Commission charged the founder of EtherDelta for operating an unregistered securities exchange. In 2021, the Financial Action Task Force pushed global guidelines targeting virtual asset providers.
And the regulatory landscape shifted permanently in 2024.
The MiCA framework.
Yes. The European Union enforced the markets in crypto assets regulation. It placed massive compliance burdens on stablecoin issuers and custodial services.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, DeFi is being forced into a very uncomfortable maturation phase.
It really is growing up.
To survive these legal crackdowns from 2023 to 2025, many projects realized they had to abandon the utopian dream of pure, lawless decentralization. They are adopting hybrid models.
They are building bridges between the traditional legal system and the blockchain. We're seeing the massive growth of tokenization of real-world assets, or RWAs.
Like what?
Well, platforms are taking traditional financial instruments like U.S. Treasury bills and real estate and putting them on-chain so institutional investors can participate legally.
But to do that, you have to know who is buying them. So how do they solve the identity problem without giving up all their privacy?
By integrating off-chain compliance layers, specifically decentralized identity solutions, or DSD, platforms are utilizing technologies like Polygon ID.
So instead of uploading my passport directly to a public blockchain, I prove my identity off-chain to a trusted verifier.
Yes.
And then they send a cryptographic proof to the smart contract.
Exactly. The smart contract receives a mathematically verified signal that just says, this user has passed a background check and is legally allowed to trade, without ever exposing your actual name or personal data to the public ledger.
The technology is evolving so rapidly to meet these demands. I mean, they're using Layer 2 networks like Arbitrum to process transactions faster and cheaper, away from Ethereum's main bottleneck.
And by early 2025, we even saw AI-powered DeFi agents actively automating risk management and yield strategies.
Like all professionalizing.
We are even seeing decentralized autonomous organizations adopting legal wrappers, forming actual LLCs in specific jurisdictions to protect their members from liability.
So, synthesizing all of this for you, the listener, decentralized finance started as a radical utopian experiment. The mission was to replace the centralized bankers of Wall Street with open-source money Legos.
A noble goal.
It triggered a multi-billion-dollar gold rush that made overnight billionaires out of yield farmers. But it also exposed everyday people to predatory front-running bots, weaponized flash loans, and a system entirely devoid of empathy or a safety net.
Which leaves us with a lingering, provocative question to ponder.
Let's hear it.
As this ecosystem increasingly adopts decentralized identity checks, off-chain legal compliance, and corporate wrappers to appease global regulators, is it actually revolutionizing finance? Or is it destined to slowly transform into the exact same traditional centralized banking system it originally set out to destroy, just running on slightly more complex code?
That is a fascinating paradox, and really the ultimate tension of this entire movement. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking those hard questions and keep challenging the systems that govern our world. Catch you next time.